everyone, I'm Jill, and this is YesterKitchen. Today we're going to go way back in the way back machine to like the 1890s. We're not exactly sure what date, but we're starting in the 1890s and ending up in 1907. Today we're going to talk about a recipe that all of you know. Every market knows, every restaurant knows, and there's about 1,000 or probably way more different recipes of this. But today we're going to go to the original recipe, and I can't wait to tell you the story because it's pretty cool. What are we talking about? Thousand Island dressing. I know, a little boring, haven't had it in a while. My mom makes it, my grandma makes it, my favorite restaurant makes it. But you know what? You need to learn the original recipe because it's really good and really simple. So let's get started. I'm going to tell you a little story, I'm going to do a little cooking, and be sure to hit subscribe if you like it because we're going to explore so many different recipes. My jam is the 1950s through the 1970s, but sometimes we go a little out of the box like today. Oh, by the way, if you have a favorite food memory and you grew up in the 1950s, 60s, or 70s, I would love to hear about it. Please post some comments below. I read everything. Maybe a family meal, special family meal, or a favorite restaurant that doesn't exist anymore. I want to hear about all of it because this is going to be an awesome channel. And now, let's get going. So it all started way back in the 1890s when George and Sophia Lalonde had a little inn, and it was in Clayton, New York. Shout out to Clayton people, thanks for the history. And it was kind of in this group of islands called the Thousand Islands. How did that happen? But it wasn't called Thousand Island dressing back then. Actually, it was Sophia who ran the inn. She took care of the guests, she made the food, she took care of everything, and her husband George did fishing tours during the day. And that was their livelihood. So this was just, you know, just like you have your own dressing, just like I have my own dressing. It was just this dressing she had, which no one really, you know, outside of there knew about. So anyway, one day, we're going to fast forward now to 1907. One day, a couple comes for a fishing tour and to stay in the inn. The wife, her name was May Irwin, and you may not know her, but she was pretty something. She was an actress back in the day, but she just wasn't an actress, she was the actress. She actually was credited for the first on-screen kiss, which is pretty pioneering for back then, because you know how back then everything was so taboo. And she's like, no, we're gonna kiss. And they kissed on screen, and everyone was like, and look where we are now. So thank you, May. Anyway, May and her husband were there, and they were doing their fishing during the day. And then they come to the inn, and Sophia serves them lunch, and she serves them a salad with her dressing. Now, at the time, it wasn't called Thousand Island dressing. It actually didn't even have a name. So let's get started on it. We're gonna do 1 cup of mayonnaise, and let's talk about mayonnaise. If you want the original, authentic recipe, use real mayonnaise. Not the sweetened kind, not the olive oil, not the low fat. I mean, if you have it, it's not going to make or break the recipe, but if you want the real recipe, use real mayonnaise. And actually, I've tried them all, it tastes much better. So there you go, a little mayonnaise. So Sophia's serving lunch to me and her husband, and May takes a bite of the salad and she's like, oh my God, what is this dressing? And Sophia's like, oh, that's my dressing. And she said, can I please have the recipe? So Sophia said, sure. So May takes out a paper and May writes it down while Sophia's telling her. And she names it Sophia's sauce because it was Sophia and it was her sauce, right? So she writes it down and they have a lunch. And then eventually they go back home to New York, and she goes ahead and shares it with her friend George Bolt. I'm gonna leave you hanging for a second on who that is while I add half a cup of ketchup. Any old ketchup will do. And we kind of want to stir it around and get it to that Thousand Island pink color that we all know and love. And there it is. Look familiar? There we go. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. And the brown Worcestershire will kind of turn back into a pink. You just got to mix it really well. It just kind of darkens it a bit, and boy, does it help add in the flavor. So who is George Bolt? I wouldn't leave you hanging that long. So George Bolt actually happened to own the Waldorf Astoria back at the time. And since May was who May was, she was friends with him. So she goes over to him and she goes, George, I have this recipe. You need to try it. So George is like, okay. So he goes and he has his chef make it, and he tries it, and he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. She's like, mm-hmm. So he goes and talks to his maitre d'. His name was Oscar, and at the time, maitre d's were something. They were the schmoozers of the restaurant. They knew the customers. They knew who the customers' favorite waiters were. They knew what the customers liked to eat. And they were in charge of the reservation list, so everybody wanted to be friends with the maitre d'. Anyway, so George says to Oscar, Oscar, put this on the menu. And Oscar's like, okay. So he puts it on the menu, and then Oscar was credited for introducing this sauce to the world. And once Oscar heard the story about where this sauce came from, he's like, well, that's a no-brainer. Let's call it Thousand Island dressing. And from there, right? Because we all know about it. I'm going to finish this recipe off for you. We want to do a 1/4 cup of sweet relish. And we want to do 1 chopped hard-boiled egg. You can chop it tiny, you can chop it bigger. It's kind of whatever you want it to be. And if you don't know how to make a hard-boiled egg, it's so easy. You take a pot, you put your eggs in, you cover it with cold water just till you cover the eggs. Heat it up to a boil. As soon as it hits boil, turn off the fire, put a lid on it. 17 minutes. 17-minute timer goes off, scoop out the eggs, put them in ice water, let them sit for about 5 minutes to come to temperature. That's it, no brainer. So now, I have this very, very classic salad, which is romaine, fresh chives, and little mini heirloom tomatoes. It's just perfect. So you just want it, you can put this in the fridge and let it set for a few, maybe like, I don't know, 30 minutes, but I can't wait. So I'm gonna start right now. And you just kind of wanna make your salad all pretty. And of course, you know, burgers, Reuben sandwiches, pretty much any salad under the planet. I've even dipped fries in this thing, and it's pretty amazing. So there you go. The original Thousand Island dressing. It has the perfect blend of sweet and tart and a little hint of zing from the Worcestershire. You'll love it. Give it a try. Pretend you're in 1907 and just really enjoy it. So that's it for today. I hope you try the recipe. It's simple, but it's wonderful. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time, and remember, history never tasted so good.